Alrighty then, how's it going, everybody? It's a Worlds Collide Wednesday, rather. I am your host with the most, better than two, B Schwantz 27 here, and we are going to be doing some Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, the open world Final Fantasy VI, or if people in the US played it, Final Fantasy III. Randomizer for you tonight. And we've got a little three-way dance here between Jexperox in the upper left-hand corner, black with a little purple trim action, Nobody War with the bright gold with white, and on the bottom left is One Free Fit, supporting the fabulous violet shrubbery there for his particular background. So what the heck are we going to be watching here? Well, this is Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. It's an open world randomizer. And what is randomized in this game? Well, the characters that you start off with, the characters that you recruit, what commands they have on them, where the bosses are fought, they're shuffled amongst themselves, where the enemy mobs are, what spells are taught on espers, where the espers are obtained, all the items in chests and shops. It's a fun-filled extravaganza. And we will be showcasing our newest event called the Coliseum. It's basically going to be a tournament of 1v1 style matches. Obviously, this is not a 1v1 style match because this is a practice race. And there are lots of different flag sets, each representing the 14 characters of Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. This particular racing set is going to be the Shadow flag set. So that means we are going to start with Shadow, and Shadow's command is throw. Those are the things that we know off the top. The event schedule goes like this. Actually, before we do the events, let's talk about the flag set a little bit more. We have to, in order to beat the game, we have to defeat Final Kafka. In order to unlock Final Kafka, we have to recruit 6 total characters. We start off with 3. And then we have to find 9 espers. We also can go to a Kafka's Tower skip, which is at 12 bosses defeated. That means we step on the switches and do this. Okay, sorry. Where was I? Yes, so step on the switches, doing the boss gauntlet with 12 bosses here. We also have some other objectives, since this is the Coliseum after all. If one of our runners decides to go into the Coliseum, and there are 120 items with their rewards, as well, remember, the bets are completely random, and so are the enemies that we're fighting. You'll get the auto image status for the rest of the game. You also get, at the start of the speed, a +5 strength or vigor and a +5 speed bonus, because it's the Shadow we're talking about after all. And there are several interesting tidbits as a variation on our standard 6-character 9 esper recruits that we usually do. There is an objective. If we let Sid die on the solitary island, that means we go and talk to him and we don't feed him enough fishing time, we get a high tier item. Additionally, this flag is normally not set this way. There is split experience for our party, meaning the XP that you get is split amongst the living party members in your party. So normally what happens is we, in standard races, don't have split XP. In this flag set, we do. So that means that if runners have 4 characters in their party, they'll actually get less XP per battle per character than 3 characters. So it's an interesting tidbit to throw in there. We also have 50,000 starting GP, but the items sell for absolutely nothing. So you have to be careful with gold management. And there is a gold multiplier of 10 times for every single battle. Additionally, there is a setting set so that you could Y NPC remove. If you hit the Y button, it removes NPCs out of your way. This has the interesting side effect of allowing you to do sequence breaks and get into checks that you normally wouldn't be able to access without that certain character. The Worlds Collide has got a character gating concept that we'll go over in just a second. But that will come in important and handy later on. There's also a no free espers or characters challenge, which basically means any check that you don't have to take any fights will not reward you with any characters or progression. So we'll see what 3 characters we start off with here, because as I mentioned, there is a concept called character gating, and every character unlocks a certain amount of world events from Final Fantasy VI. We start with Shadow, so we know that we are going to right away have access to the Gal Manor spot in the World of Balance. We're also going to have access to the Cave on the Veldt in the World of Ruin, where Shadow's dog comes and sees you and you have to go rescue him. And we also have access to a 3-part check called the Floating Continent. So the Floating Continent has 3 different parts, as I mentioned. The first part is 3 fixed encounters and then 2 bosses in order to get your first reward, which is either an Esper or a character. And the second part is where you fight at the weapon in the vanilla game, as we start out with Gao with Slot and Sketch, Cyan with Blitz, and Shadow with Natural Magic and Throw. So we'll see where our runners decide to go with this set of options here. Nobody War is heading into World of Ruin Albrook straight away. 1 free Fitz looks like he's going to go over to the Returner's hideout, and Jexferox is landing the airship right at the Cave of Nourish here. So 3 very different starts here for our runners. Nobody yet taking advantage of the fact that YMPC remove is on, and you could sequence break into one of Locke's checks, the World of Ruin Nourish Weapon Shop, where we'll get a choice of 2 high-tier items in this particular flag set because the no free progression is off. And we also can have access to the Cursed Shield, which is anywhere between 3 and 14 battles in this particular flag set, to uncurse the shield in order to get the Paladin Shield. It will not teach the Ultima spell in this particular flag set because Ultima is set to off. A couple of earrings over there for Nobody War in the Relic Shop, along with an Atlas Armlet. So those will boost damage for both magical and physical attacks, respectively. So good to find those right out of the gate here. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to be running this flag set, Shadow's Ninja Star, in the first week of the Coliseum. So I started talking about the schedule, and then I got sidetracked. So let's talk about the schedule a little bit more. Starting the week of December 4th through December 11th, that is the preliminary round in both the Coliseum upper and lower bracket after the qualifier, which is taking place this week on the Terra Sword flag set. And we've got a gem box from Jexferox from Gal Manor that is one of Shadow's checks. So with the no free progression, we are not going to get an Esper or character there. And a gem box will allow us to use X magic, but most of the time that is used as some sellables because it sells for a lot of money, but not in this particular flag set. Nobody War finding some skeins and some shurikens there in World of Ruin Miranda, not a place that people typically go. There's only 2 chests there, but there is a weapon and an armor shop. So the other characters that we have here in our particular party, we've got Gao with Slot and Sketch, I believe. So he opens up the Veldt check, of which we need to find some dried meat in order to actually complete that check and feed the dried meat to whomever or whatever we're going to recruit on the Veldt. And he also has access to the Serpent Trench, which is great to start off with because there is no boss in the Serpent Trench. You're just fighting fixed encounters along the way. So that's usually a go-to for a lot of our runners. We also have Cyan, who has 5 different checks available to him. The first being the World of Balance Dome of Siege, where Kafka poisons his entire village there. He also has access to Mount Zozo, of which it looks like Nobody War is landing next to. There's an optional dragon here at Mount Zozo, so we'll see if Nobody War decides to take an early dragon here. But we could see who or what is writing love letters, and there is Cyan's Nightmare. That is a 3-part check. The first and third parts can only reward an Esper or an item, as that's an Atma weapon there for Jexferox. That'll come in handy much later on in the seed, because that's a weapon that's based on your levels. And right now, all of our runners start with level 3. And we give them 3 Moogle Charms in order to avoid these forced encounters. Nobody War decided to take his off and is taking some grind fights to level up a little to get off of level 3, because level 3 is not a place you want to be. The second part of Cyan's dream is either a character or an Esper, so there are 3 different checks there. There are 2 bosses. Remember I said we have to defeat 12 bosses to get the Kefka Tower skip. So that one's pretty good because it offers 3 rewards for 2 different bosses. Fitz and Jexfarok both doing some looting here in the basement of South Figaro. This is more common amongst our runner starts. Meanwhile, Nobody War is in Mount Zozo. So this is World of Ruin Zozo, where one of Cyan's checks is. He took a grind fight or 2. We'll see if he decides to take a dragon. So a note about the enemies in this particular flag set. The dragons in the vanilla game are very tough. In this game, however, they are scaled downwards to the level of your party, or rather the level of progression times 2.5. So right now, everybody has 3 characters and no Espers and no dragons defeated. So that means that enemies are at level 3 times 2, which is 6, plus a half, right? So half of 3 is 1.5. So they're usually at around level 7, 8, or 9 here, depending upon what the role is for that particular boss. So not too terrible of levels to start out with here. So we'll see if he decides to take a dragon. Dragons will grant you a ton of XP. They will also grant you a ton of MP, 50 to be exact. They will also grant you their vanilla drop, which is usually a pretty good item. And they will also reward another high tier item. So very good to take off of the rip, especially if you can defeat it, because then you'll be pretty far ahead in terms of leveling. As far as rewards go, that's the first one for Nobody War. That's a piece of magicite on the ground writing love letters. How does an Esper write? I have no idea. Maybe Nobody War will have to show us how that actually works. So we'll see what the Esper is. We'll see what's on it. The spells that it's taught and the different Esper bonuses are also randomized. He is not going to take the dragon. He just warps out there. Is going to pick up the piece of magic and run. Phantom is actually a pretty good Esper summon for the final battle. It'll help protect you against Tier 1's physical attacks. It'll help you get past Tier 2 with the 10 hits, and it'll also help with Calmness if you really need to, the instant-death physical attack in Tier 3. Nobody War, seeing what's at the Coliseum here. I'm not really seeing anything good in the Coliseum. There's some question mark items that he could choose to bet on. Why not bet a shuriken for a question mark? Remember, if you do win a Coliseum match, you will get the auto image status, which is great because that basically means that you're impervious to physical attacks until the image status is broken. And every time you get attacked physically, there's a 50-50 chance that that image status does get broken. Taco Magic says, easy, Phantom is a ghost rider. I see what you did there. I like that one. Alright, so Jexfarok's looted both World of Ruin South Figaro and World of Balance South Figaro. Notably, the chests on the exterior part of both of the towns are different. The ones inside in the basement are the same. I did not even see what he won for that battle because he used an Aura Bolt from Cyan in order to get past it. It doesn't really matter what the reward is. The auto image status is more than enough of a reward, especially at these low levels. There's a Ragnarok and fixed dice in the Returner's hideout. Wow. So that will certainly come in handy. In Worlds Collide, there is a 33% chance that somebody that could not equip a vanilla item can equip it. So the fixed dice, naturally equipable by only Setzer in the vanilla game. The Ragnarok, naturally equipable only by those that can carry the big swords, Locke, Terra, Celeste, and Edgar. So we'll see if anybody can equip either of those 2 items, because that's some early high-powered offense. Although, we do have Shadow with Throw, which is very good both early, mid, and end game. We have Gal with Slots, which is pretty decent at the beginning and mid-game, although we're going to want to shift away from that to something else. Definitely some sort of magic for him if he's going to stay in the party. And then Cyan has Blitz. Now, Blitz is normally based off of the magic power of your characters, and I just saw he's got 35 with that Ragnarok, so he probably has around 28 or 29 without it. So his magic stat is not that high. So he might need to pivot off of that, but with the Ragnarok, that's what he's going to be doing all game. We also have that Atma weapon, as Hashmalum points out in the chat. That will come online a bit later. The Atma weapon is based on the level of your character, and during its damage calculation, it does a divide by 32 at the end. So level 32 is the magic number for the Atma weapon. If you're under level 32, you're always going to be doing less than the 255 battle power that weapon grants. So it looks like we're looking for some dried meat here because Nobody War is in World of Balance Nikeah. World of Ruin Nikeah. You actually end up in World of Balance Nikeah after the Gao check. So we are looking around for some dried meat. Can't really find any yet. So we're going to be putting off Gao's checks for a while. What I like to do, if I start with Gao, is I get his Velt check and the Serpent Trench out of the way as a nice 1-2 punch, because they're literally right next to one another. Velt will get you a free piece of progression, and then Serpent Trench, there's no bosses. Little hero ring action in that clock for Nobody War, and he's doing the first of our actual boss checks here with Cyan's Nightmare. Softfur Behemoth suit is pretty good, so that's what Jexvarox is going after here in the Coliseum. And Fitz is also taking a look at his party composition. He did the same as Jex with looting both World of Balance and World of Ruin South Figaro, so I'm assuming he found all the same stuff that Jexy did with the Ragnarok and the fixed dice. He's also taken a dip into the Coliseum here over on this side. Nobody War here, stopping just outside. Unfortunately, with his route, he did not go to South Figaro yet, so he does not have access to that big sword nor that dice. Oh, and it's Tentacles early. Yikes. So Tentacles is a boss that likes to grab onto your party. Thankfully, the auto image status will make it a lot harder for the Tentacles to actually stick, because they'll miss every time they try and seize your party. But at low levels, Tentacles is deadly, because what they do is they grab onto you and they basically poison you. And they will do 60 damage per tick. And at very low levels, 60 damage per tick will drop you dead real fast. Also, nice to see you back in the chat for at least a little bit, Hash. Welcome back. We've got Blitz and we've got Slots, so we've got some good AoE along with Throw to clear these out. So Nobody War probably won't have an issue here, except if his image status gets broken very fast. He still has it for Gao and Shadow, but is missing it for Cyan. And unfortunately, Seize will also slow your character, so it makes it harder for them to actually take their turn before you get grabbed. And unfortunately, that is a grabby from one of the Tentacles there on Cyan, which basically means he's dead now. All right, SpeedGaming coming in with a party of 206. Wow, thank you very much, SpeedGaming, for the raid. And that's a reset for Nobody War. Early Tentacles is a bit of an uphill climb there, so he'll take another route. So what are we watching? We're watching Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, the open world randomizer for Final Fantasy VI, or if you played it in the US, Final Fantasy III. And we are doing sort of a standard race here with a twist. We have our Coliseum tournament that's currently ongoing. The qualifying round is this week. This is a sneak preview at the set of options for next week, where we start off with Shadow, and we have to recruit 3 additional characters and find 9 Espers in order to unlock the final boss of the game, Kefka, and then we get to go defeat him. So a question from Green Monkey in the chat is, auto-image the Coliseum reward? Yes, that is the reward for your party in this particular flag set. So you get the image status before every battle, or in the case of the final battle, right at the start of every tier. So it's a really nice reward to have. I didn't see a lot of what was in the Coliseum because Nobody War went there and he took a radically different route of looting than the other two. Did see a behemoth suit in there though, so that's what Jexy was trying to pick up with his stuff. Looks like we got magic power +1 with Berserk and X Zone, so that'll be nice to put on Cyan if Nobody War is going to continue to use Blitz with Cyan. Because as I mentioned, Blitz as a command is usually based off of magic, with 2 exceptions, Pummel and the infamous Suplex, that's based off of your strength. We did get +5 strength and +5 speed at the start of this flag set for everybody. So things are going to kind of tend to skew slightly towards physical offensive builds as opposed to magical, but we take what the seed gives us. And no, that is not the right Kefka to defeat. That's Kefka at Narsh over on Nobody War's screen with an Esper down on the floor in the Velt Cave. So he is going to be looking to pick up his second piece of Magicite here. Jexvarox is heading into the Mount Zozo cave there. And one free fits is at the Dome of Siege. So 3 runners in 3 different spots. One of the things I love about Worlds Collide is you get this sort of route divergence because of the fact that it's not like a key item hunt. It is get to, a certain count of characters and espers, and you can actually customize your requirements for beating the game to be whatever it is that you want. Ooh, and that's a double kill over on Nobody War's screen. Shadow and Gao rather, both down. That is Ifrit on one free Fitz's screen. That is also not a nice fight. Ifrit basically nullifies every element except the one that he is weak to, which is ice, and will absorb fire. So this is going to be a bit of a drawn-out fight because the only things that we have to really damage him are Pummel, getting lucky with slots with 7 Flush or Chocobop, and some throwables here. Jexvarox, meanwhile, picking up his Magicite. Nobody War picking up his second Magicite. I did not see if Nobody War resurrected the other 2. I'm assuming not, because the fight was over relatively fast afterwards. Remember, in this flag set, you cannot sell items for any money. So Nobody War was not careful with his money, and now he's stuck in a situation where he's got to use one of his precious tents in order to revive his party, because he only has 2 Phoenix Downs, and he's, excuse me, kind of broke. He did, however, find an experience egg in World of Ruin Thamasa, so good on him for doing that Velt Cave check early. That's the Phoenix Esper with Meteor on it. Meteor is a decent spell. So he'll be able to use that on that Ifrit Shiva fight because it is considered non-elemental. I don't know how giant space rocks are considered, not an element, but that's neither here or there. Thanks a lot, Square. Jexvarox, meanwhile, is also going to find that experience egg because he just happened to walk in to Thamasa looking for some loot here. And that's one free Fitz picking up a kill on Ifrit and Shiva. Now, if this was a character, our character would have joined the party before this fight, so this is either an Esper or an item, and with the no free progression flag on, this will probably be an Esper. Most of the time, of course, the commentator curse. It is not. It is a Valiant Knife. There are actually, I think, 3 checks in the entire game when no free progression is on that will not reward an Esper or an Esper when it's either an Esper or an item check there. Unfortunately, the Valiant Knife is only good for Gao, and Gao does not have a fight command. His leap and rage rather are replaced with 2 random commands. In this case, it's Slot and Sketch. Slot is, like I said, okay for early and mid game. Sketch is usually never good. Oh, there's an offering to tempt you as well in this relic shop. And Jexvarox is tempted, but remember, everything sells for 0 GP. So we can't exactly sell stuff to get it. We are going to have to fight random encounters to go get some Skrilla. There's the dried meat finally for Jex Verox in World of Balance Jador. So while Nobody War has been doing a bunch of different checks, Jex Verox has been scouring the globe for some dried meat. So here's a cool trick that Nobody War is attempting to do on his screen, which is to run away from the Ifrit and Shiva fight. When there is a transition between Ifrit and Shiva, you can actually run away from this battle because the unrunnable flag gets reset during that transition. The unfortunate part is I don't know if you could do it with one person because your ATB bar has to fill up, and Ifrit changes to Shiva after 3 to 5 attacks. So we'll see if Shiva comes out here. Looks like One Free Fitz is skipping the Velt check altogether and is diving into the Serpent Trench. Meanwhile, Jex Verox is seeing if his dried meat hunt has paid off. By the way, viewers, if you got any... Ooh! That's a fire to the face there for Ifrit and Shiva. Well, there are still plenty of checks for Nobody War to do. We did start out with characters that have 5 checks, plus 5 checks, plus 2 checks, respectively. So we got 12 different places that we can go. It does seem that he feels a little underleveled. Remember, in this flag set, the scaling and the HP of bosses goes up 2.5 times for each piece of progression you have. Right, so in standard flags it's 2. In this flag set it's 2.5. So our enemies are going to be a little bit beefier than most are used to. This is going to be Jex's second Magicite here, and it is Starlit. We'll see if there's any good spells on it for him to be rewarded for doing all that hunting for that meat. It's got Magic Power +2, Life 3, and Merton. Okay, all right, game. I see what you did there. Make meat hard to find. Get rewarded when you find it. So Merton is a spell that will attack everything on the screen, including your party, with a wind and fire elemental attack. So if we find immunity to both wind and fire for all of our party members, then we are going to be doing some Merton casting in this seed. So I think we got a little bit of work to do. I know that there is a Thunder Shield somewhere, so we at least have one piece of progression, or one piece of Merton protection, rather. Jexy throwing the experience egg on Gao, who died in his first fight. So he's at level 3 now. Let's see if we can get Gao to a better spot. And oh, this is a nasty encounter on Fitz's screen here. The Spitfire is known to throw blasters at you, which basically knocks your party dead. Never fun. So let's hope he gets out of this quickly. With some bolt edges and mechanical objects, that will certainly do it. I don't quite understand how those motorized propeller-looking things can make it underwater, but hey, it's Final Fantasy VI after all, right? Crazier stuff has happened. Excellent game knowledge here from Jex Verox, realizing that the enemies, the hippocampuses, are undead, so throwing a Revivify or a Phoenix down on them will actually kill them. That is One Free Fitz on the board with the Seraphim Esper teaching Doom. So that's our instant death, which will be good on tiers 1 and 2 of the final fight. Yeah, I'm already talking about Final Kefka because Final Kefka is the same for each seed, and we want to have certain tools in our tool chest ready to bust out at any time against Kefka. Nobody War doing some more looting, and he's going to find that Thunder Shield, the Fixed Ice, and the Ragnarok in this, and go, oh my god, my opponents have found this way earlier than me. I'm in deep trouble. So, oh, and there's a Force Armor in that chest too? Wow, returners are stacked this seed. So he's going to start to get a little worried now, I think. He doesn't know that he has, in terms of progression, he is sort of in the lead here, although Jex will get his third Esper at the end of the Serpent Trench. And it looks like One Free Fitz is going to take a little airship ride up to the floating continent here. I like this play early because even though it is a bit of a gauntlet to get you to the first part of the floating continent, it is guaranteed progression. It's guaranteed to be a character or an Esper here. He has got to do 3 forced encounters plus 2 bosses. Thankfully, you do get a free heal in between the 2 bosses that you fight on the way to the floating continent. But this is still a bit of a long one here. That Thunder Shield also teaching Jex's party Bolt 2. Elemental Shields will teach your party the Tier 2 elemental spell of whatever it is that you're holding at a ×5 rate. So usually that's pretty good. It looks like Nobody War here is, well, he's going for the beams first of all with the rename cards, but he is also on a dried meat hunt. So this can be sort of a sunken cost fallacy a little bit with Gao, is if you don't find meat in your normal looting route, I usually just ignore it because I'm going to spend way more time looking for meat than it's actually worth. Remember, there is also a shop on the airship too that you can get dried meat from, and that's always where it is, of course. There it is. Nobody War finds the meat finally after checking a bunch of different shops. Thankfully, he went to Returner's hideout, so now he's got that Ragnarok for Cyan. I don't know if anybody can actually use the fixed dice. I'm guessing not, based on the battles that we've seen from our other runners here. Nobody War is going to pick up his 3rd and 4th piece of Magicite here after doing these 2 different checks. So he will be happy with that. Again, I'm quite surprised that nobody has used the Y NPC remove to get into Locke's check early for the Cursed Shield. Meanwhile, on One Free Fits' screen, this is boss number 1 of the floating continent. It is Toilet Atma, Atma Weapon's bigger brother. That is an optional fight. Unfortunately, he only has a Pearl Rod, and Atma will absorb the non-common elements, including Pearl, and Water, and Wind, and Earth, and I'm missing one, and Poison. So those won't actually hurt him at all. Gao taking a nap here. I'm not really quite sure what Gao is going to be doing all seed, right? Because Slots is good in the early game, but it tends to fall off a little bit. As soon as you get a little bit further on in the seed. That Water Edge almost taking a bite out of One Free Fits' party. So with the Ragnarok, you actually get double damage if you have any MP. So I don't know if he threw that Esper on Cyan just for him to get MP, because usually that's what happens. If you put an Esper on, that's when you get magic points, MP. Nobody War heading down into the Serpent Trench, and this will get him some better levels so that he's better equipped to take on the tentacles at the first spot in Cyan's Nightmare, and better equipped for Ifrit Shiva. Hopefully he finds himself something to take it out. One Free Fits done with the first boss here, and the second boss is our purple octopus friend Ultros. This is Ultros number 3, because we do see his tentacles. He does not have enough room for Chupon behind him, and this is not a pincer attack. So that's how you can know your Ultroses, folks. Pincer attack is Ultros 2. Chupon is Ultros 4, and no tentacles is Ultros 1. So by process of elimination, this is Ultros number 3. We actually have Sketch with Gao, so One Free Fits could have ended that fight right away with Sketch, how it happens in Vanilla on Esper Mountain. But you just don't get the experience if you do so. And there is Terra at the floating continent with her Vanilla Morph. Terra can also use that Ragnarok, so we'll see what else she is going to be doing. Ragnarok, Atma Weapon, and that Valiant Knife that we got from defeating the Ifrit Shiva fight. So, deciding to use one of the 2 Ragnaroks we have for Terra at the moment. I'm assuming once we get another character, Gao will be out of our party here, and somebody else will be using the Valiant Knife, and Shadow will be our throw user. There's also the Atma Weapon, too, that we could throw in there, but remember, that's not going to come online until much later in the seed. Well, Uncle Ulti unfortunately met his untimely demise. And we'll see. Now that Fitz has the Valiant Knife, he is going to go digging in the monster in a boxes. One of the monster in a boxes is called Katana Soul, and for beating Katana Soul, your reward is a fat stack of cash, which is really actually important in this seed, given that everything sells for 0 GP. But it also gives you the Offering, which is a great relic to pair with either the Atma Weapon or the Valiant Knife or the Fixed Dice. So there's multiple different uses for it, so that's why Fitz is digging in the monster in the boxes. They are shuffled amongst themselves. Jexrox in the Velt Cave here. This is where Nobody War got his third piece of Magicite. We'll see if he decides to dig in the monster in a box, because he also just got the Valiant Knife from the Dome of Siege reward. Nobody War is on the other side of the Serpent Trench now. So that means that's Esper number 4 for him. And mathematically speaking, he is our lead runner. However, One Free Fitz is the first of our runners with a 4th character. And sometimes you need to finish the seed by getting to characters first, because the more characters you get, the more checks and the more possible rewards you can obtain. Terra has 5 different checks, actually. She has the Leet River. She has the Cave to the Sealed Gate. Additionally, the Zozo Tower. And in the World of Balance, the last one is... Why am I blanking on this? No, I said them. Zozo, Sealed Gate, Leet River. Oh my god. Oh, and the Welk spot, duh. Yep, so that's 4, and then in the World of Ruin, she has the Mobilis fight. There it is. Thank you, Kurgzy. So the interesting thing about this flag set, and I know that we discussed it a little bit in our spoilers for the Terra flag set. Excuse me. That the Mobilis check actually is 2 different bosses, because you technically defeat Fun Baba 3, and then you defeat the actual boss at whatever that is. So we'll see if our runners decide to go there as part of the quest to get to 12 bosses for the skip. That is the Golem Magicite with Ice 3 and Cure 3 on it. Wow, and Break as well for Tier 1. So that's a great one to find. It also offers what we call Calmness Protection in the community. So that's a way around Tier 3's insta-death physical special. Golem will block damage for the HP of the caster. So that means that Calmness gets blocked. Question from Green Monkey in the chat. Did anybody go kill Sid? We have not had any kill Sids, and Nobody War almost got away. So one of his characters did get away. If Shadow actually dies here, then he'll actually win this fight. Because technically, Cyan is not dead and he ran away. So there you see it. Ifrit Shiva run away on Nobody War's screen. How you have to do it is you have to buffer the run, and when the transition happens between Ifrit and Shiva, that is when you can do the runaway there. So very nicely done. Unfortunately, only for a Valiant Knife, he's not going to be happy about that, but cool to show off some tech there. So one of the rewards in this flag set, as you see, Jexarox going into the Magitech factory. Now, this is normally a check that belongs to Celeste, and we do not have Celeste. However, the only thing that's blocking this check is a couple of NPCs. And as I mentioned earlier with why NPC set to remove, we could delete the NPCs that are blocking this check off and allow us to sequence break into the Magitech factory. This is a 3-part check with 4 bosses in total. So this is also a nice one for this particular flag set. And One Free Fitz, he could actually YMPC remove this boss here at the end by deleting the gold star. But again, given the fact that we need to get to 12 bosses in order for a in order for a skip. I'm not anticipating that he does that here. Just for reference, Nobody War has 2 bosses. Jex, I don't know because his tracker is not showing. And this is 4 bosses for 1 free fits. Inferno at the last spot here, so this will be his 5th boss. Yeah, you don't often see a death by snowball, but that's that's what sometimes happens in the very, very chilly parts. I know where I live here in New York, there was certainly death by snowball last weekend in Buffalo. 6 feet of snow, jeez, that's a little out of control. 1 free fits using the Pearl Rod here on Inferno. It will cast a maximum damage Pearl spell. Inferno is actually weak to lightning and water, although different parts of him are not weak to lightning, as you saw there. It healed one of the parts. And Nobody War is back for his 2nd round of Tentacles. And Jexferox is fighting a statue boss here with Doom. And it looks like he's got enough protection to use the Merton spell. You'll see that Cyan was healed by it, so he has either a Flame Shield or a Rage Ring or a Paladin Shield, which we didn't go and crack yet. This is an Esper there for 1 free fits, because that's a Merchant Sprite jumping out at us. So that is the Crusader Esper. So that's Terra and 2 Espers up there on the floating continent. We're already on to the 2nd phase here of Doom. Nobody War, meanwhile, trying to use X-Zone, because you can actually remove that bottom left tentacle from the fight. It is susceptible to instant death. Question from the chat of Knights of the Calculator: is Fitz keeping Gao dead on purpose? So in this particular set of options, the experience that you get from each fight is actually split between the living party members. So he thinks, you know what, I don't really need Gao. He's not really helping me out here with just slots and sketch. And we haven't found great pieces of magic. So you know what, I'm just going to keep him dead. And this means the rest of my party will level up at an even greater rate. That is Doom dead for Jexferox over there. And he's going to get Alexander Magicite. So in the Magitech Factory, the first 2 parts of it can only be Esper or item. So that's why we see Esper rewards. And with no free progression on, they're most likely Espers here. 1 free fits deciding to just loot the chests there at the Cave to the Sealed Gate and not continuing on with the check. Probably a smart move, because the thing at the end of that check is going to be a high tier item. It's not going to be an Esper or a character. And with his party, he's got all the high tier gear that he probably needs. We got 2 Ragnaroks, a Valiant Knife, and some fixed ice. We also won a Behemoth suit, I believe, in the Coliseum. And there's some shurikens for Shadow. He'll be happy about that. So another question from the chat: how does having 1 dead guy and a lower level affect the levels of newly found characters? So the new characters is that it's a Bahamut Magicite there for Nobody War. First look at that one from Cyan's stream on the 2nd try for Bahamut. So the characters will still join at party average level, right? So if, let's say right now, I think 1 free fits' party is at like in the mid-20s, let's say 22, and Gao is dead at level 17, right? So his next character will join at a level somewhere obviously in between 22 and 17, but more towards 22 because most of his characters are at 22. At this point with his party composition though, with a throw Shadow and 2 Ragnaroks with the other 2 characters, I don't anticipate him changing party members there. That is Ice 3 and Speed +2 and Cure 3 on that 2nd Magicite out of the Magitech Factory for Jexy, so he's now got 6. Nobody War, I did not see what the sprite was here, but let's go check out and let's see what is Umaro at the 2nd part of Cyan's stream. So Nobody War will have to make the decision to keep Umaro in the party or to send him to the bench. Yeah, no problem. So as I mentioned earlier in the stream, of the broadcast. The Shadows Ninja Star flags will be the flags for the first week of the Coliseum, which starts on December 4th. We are currently undergoing the first qualifier called the Grand Melee to sort out the top 32 runners, which will be in the upper brackets in the double elimination tournament. And everybody that's after 32 gets thrown into Chupon's pit, where we will continue to do 1v1s, even in the lower part. And wow, yikes, this could be a wipe here. Oof! Madam Outsiders don't play on Jex's screen. I hope that he saved recently. Yeah, so to get a little bit more math and technical about it, and I know how you guys love math, and oh, he did not save after he defeated the second boss here, so let's subtract a Magicite from his tracker. He's now at 5 and 6. Yeah, so let's do some actual math here for you. I know, math, blah, blah, blah. So in standard flags, the XP multiplier is 3, right? So, and that is not split amongst any of your characters. So you get, everybody gets times 3. With Shadows Ninja Star, the XP multiplier is times 8, but that gets split amongst all of your living party members. So if you have 4 members of your party, that you're actually getting times 2 for each character. So you're getting less XP per battle with 4 characters than a standard flag set. With 3 characters, you're getting slightly more. You're getting like 3.33333333. Right? I think that's how the math works out. No? Maybe? Or is it 2.6 repeating? Either way, you get more with 3 characters than you do with 4. With 4 characters, it's closer to times 2 for progression, and with 3 characters, it's much better there. So we got Umaro for Nobody War. I didn't see if he decided that. So that's Ramu on the throne there for Nobody War, and all of a sudden, he has taken the lead with 4 and 6 here. Fitz, I believe, did defeat Doom, so he's actually at 4 now. Thank you to all my calculators in the chat. Knights of the Calculator, actually. That is perfect name. Username checks out there. It's actually 2.6 repeating. So with Cyan, with Shadow's XP, you're actually getting less XP per battle, even with 3 characters, than you're normally used to. The only time you're getting more XP than you're used to is if you have only 2 characters, because then you'll be getting 8 divided by 2, which is 4 times, right? 8 divided by 3 is 2 and change. So that makes sense. Yeah, I was doing math. I was doing multiplication when I should have been doing division. So yes, it is 2.6. So in Shadow's flag set, either way, you're getting less XP than you normally would in a standard flag set, unless you use only 2 characters, and that's very, very risky. Because let's fast forward now to the end of the game. So to beat the game, you still have to get into Kefka's Tower, and you need to split your party into 3 different factions in order to climb up Kefka's Tower, right? So if you have only 2 members of your party that you're leveling up along the way, you're going to have to do some shenanigans with warping in and out in order to defeat all 3 of the bosses in the boss gauntlet with any semblance of hope. Because those people that you have not leveled up are not going to defeat those harder bosses. With 3 party members that are getting XP, at least you could send 1 good party member, if you will, down each of the lanes. All right, so it's Vargas in the Apple toilets. The iPoo's here at the end of the minecart ride. So this is the 3rd part of the Magitech factory. You're guaranteed to get an Esper or an item at the end of this, but you have to go through 2 bosses, and this is the first of 2, along with fighting 3 forced encounters, which is the part where One Free Fitz is here. Nobody War, meanwhile, is following One Free Fitz's trek up to up to the floating continent here, and he will get his 5th character with Terra. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to swap Terra out for Gao, as our other runners have decided to do. Actually, does Jex have 4 characters? No, he doesn't. I'm sorry, I must have misclicked there. He only has 3. And that's an Imp Sprite, so we're getting a Magicite Madeline at the end of the Magitech factory, so that's 3 in a row, and oh no! It's Doomgaze. Here's our level check, folks. Thankfully, Jexy passes with flying colors, so if you don't know, Doomgaze from the vanilla game will open up with level 5 Doom, so if your party is a multiple of 5, that means your level ends on a 5 or ends on a 0, you get instantly killed. And as I sort of alluded to with everybody leveling up at the same rate, your party tends to be at the same-ish levels most of the game, right? All on the same level. So sometimes Doomgaze can be an instant party wipe. Thankfully, it wasn't for this seed. He does have Merton strats going on, though, which is great. Since Doomgaze is sort of weak to fire, he's definitely weak to Pearl, but fire does damage him a bit, and Merton is a whole lot of fire damage. So that is Esper number 7 for Jexy, and all of a sudden, he pulls into our Esper lead. He just needs to either go to Cyan's Dream or the Floating Continent, in order to find his character. Boo in the chat saying, nice to see where Gao belongs. Yep, on the ground. with the slots and did I miss? I missed a couple of Espers here for Fitz. Well, I missed the one that he got from Air Force, and he just acquired one. He technically has to beat this fight, but you technically actually get the Esper before fighting it, but you can't equip it. Yeah, Gao with Slot and Sketch, really not great to have in the party. We do have fantastic spells, though. We have Ice 3 and Bolt 3, as you saw. And Gao usually has pretty good magic power and pretty good physical stats. However, in this particular flag set, as we were mathing earlier in the stream, if you have 4 characters up, each character only gets 2 times XP per battle. If you have 3 characters up, each character gets 2.6 repeating times XP per battle. So definitely better to level up with 3 party members than 4. Levels are the single most important thing in Worlds Collide. It doesn't matter what your stats are. If you have more levels than stuff, you will kill stuff faster. And it's Uncle Ulti in our first Floating Continent spot. So Jexy is finally going to get his 4th character. He's also going to end the Floating Continent in Esper Go mode, so he's going to be looking for his characters. So you see how much longer this fight is taking on One Free Fitz's screen than on Jex's screen. That's the power of getting Merton strats online here. I know he found a Thunder Shield. I don't know what else Jex found in order for him to take advantage of the Merton strats. Alright, so this will be Nobody War's 5th character here with Terra on the ground. After taking it through the Floating Continent number 1, it looks like, just as I suspected, he's having a mull over whether to keep 4 or 3, and it looks like he's going to go with 4 characters here, as he realizes that he could use the Valiant Knife with Terra. So V-Knife Terra, like I said, I would have benched Gao immediately for this. Although we do have some pretty decent spells. One Free Fitz is that Narsh. He's digging in the monster in a boxes looking for that offering. Remember, we have Fixed Dice and Atma Weapon and Valiant Knife. All 3 weapons are good with the offering. So Jexy is not opting to use Sketch to end this fight right away with Gao. Instead is going to do it the old-fashioned way. Get some XP for it, and he will be rewarded with his 5th character. He will be happy to finally see a character after doing all of those other checks. ff6wc.com is our website, and it's got a link to our Discord where you could join and you could figure out how to play this for yourself. A Magus Rod or fixed dice is the choice, and One Free Fits will make some of our fixed dice haters in the chat happy by taking the Magus Rod. Yeah, that makes sense. We already have a set of fixed dice, and nobody can equip it. Magus Rod will give +7 magic power to whoever wields it, so that move definitely makes sense. Andrew pointing out in the chat that Jexy just noped out of putting Terra in his party. Very interesting. Remember, though, he already has Merton protection online, so the difference between a 7,500 and an 8,500 Merton is really not all that big of a deal. So One Free Fits has 4 characters and 6 espers. I'm sorry, I'm pushing the buttons wrong here on his screen. He does not have Umaro. So this will be really interesting here because he's going up to the Tritok spot, which can only be an esper or an item. Is going to fight this dragon, the blue dragon, which is weak to lightning. And we're having a little bit of trouble killing Gao here. There we go. The image status makes it hard to kill your own party members. But throwing a ninja star in his face will certainly do that. So there's a dragon down for One Free Fits. Will allow him to learn a bunch of spells and get a bunch of XP. Dragons do increase the scaling of the overall seed, however, so it's important to note that. So you do level your own party up at the expense of making other stuff harder to fight. And that is the Atma Weapon spot down for Jexy, who is right behind Nobody War on the floating continent here. He's going to find his 9th Esper at the end of this. He's got his 8th now. A very good Esper with Golem. Also taught some pretty good spells as well. Alright, let's see what the plan is here for our crew. With Fitz. It looks like he's setting up his party to fight Tritok, or the Tritok spot, rather. It's not Tritok, because we already saw Tritok is in Cyan's Dream, at the second boss. I think Nobody War showed us that earlier. A little Berserk action on Gao, so that's what Nobody War is deciding to do. Equip Gao with the Valiant Knife, and then putting Berserk on him. That is an awesome strat, because, as I mentioned, Gao can equip the Valiant Knife, however, he doesn't have a fight command, so he can't actually use it. But, if you cast Berserk on your own party, that means that, hey, Gao can swing away with that Valiant Knife, and I believe there is a damage increase multiplier if you use Berserk. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Somebody in the chat who's smarter than me will tell me, and then I'll take credit for knowing it. Oof. Little wave cannon action there for Nobody War. Gao is dead, but if we bring him back to life, he's going to be using that Valiant Knife, which actually does more power as your HP pool gets smaller and smaller. So, haha, you may think you've killed me, but you've only made me stronger. One Free Fits taking down whatever was at the Tritok spot. I completely missed that. However, that is an important Esper with Siren. That will allow us to completely nullify one of the parts of the second phase of the Kefka fight. So that's a great pickup for him. So everybody is even with their progression now between Fitz at 7, 4, and 1. Dex at 8 and 4, and Nobody War at 7 and 5. Soon to be 8 and 5 here, and 4 and 9, respectively. Fitz deciding I'm going to go through the dream sequence, and he'll be happy. Well, actually, he won't be happy to find Umaro, because he was literally just at the top of World of Ruin Narsh, so maybe he won't be happy. Klepto Clown says, Flame Eater, thank you very much. That was probably not a problem, because we have Ice 3. Flame Eater is obviously weak to ice. That's Magicite number 9 for Jexy, and number 8 for Nobody War. So, Jexy looking for some characters here. And just as an aside, we have 1 free Fitz with 10 bosses killed, Nobody War with 9 bosses killed, and Jex with, I don't know how many bosses killed, it's not on his tracker. So, at much higher levels, the tentacles is not a problem. It only was for Nobody War because, like I said, their poison Seize ability does a flat 60 to 70 damage. And when you only have 100 HP, that basically means you're dead. He was able to prolong that battle thanks to the image status, but that still doesn't help. And oh, that is a murder child for Nobody War in the world of Balance Narsh, peeking out of the Welk spot with Realm. Jexy is in the world of Ruin, going up to the Tritox spot, maybe? No, he went to Kefka at Narsh, and that's not a character. I should have known from the music. Unfortunately, I think Jexvarok... Oh, he's got Terra. Alright, so he went all the way up to Kefka at Narsh first to see if it was a character, and now he's going back to the Welk spot where he will be happy to find Realm as well. Because like I said, he needs characters. Nobody War finds Realm, and with X Magic decides to keep her out. We already have Terra with Magic and Shadow with Throw, Cyan with Ragnarok, and Gao getting berserked with Valiant Knife. And here's Fitz finding out it's Yeti, and he's just staring at Yeti. Thinking about his life decisions. Having a good long stare. Narappa is susceptible to instant death, but has Reflect on, so X-Zone is the only way you can get through that fight with instant death other than, let's say, an Air Anchor or Cleave. And Jack's making the decision about Realm now. 49 magic power is a lot. She's level 35, so it's really not that far behind. Unfortunately, decides to keep her on the bench. 62,000 for that glowing stone in the world of Balance to Zen. So we know it's at least an Esper. It is a different price in the world of Ruin, so let's see if Nobody War decides to go over there to try and take a discount. But I think he's going to have a hard time getting cash, because remember what I said about selling? Everything sells for 0 GP in this particular set of options. Looks like Nobody War has level 38 on his Cyan. That's due to an experience egg that he found. So he's going to juggle that over to Gao, and both him and Jexy are going to go hope that this is a character. And it is. It is Go-Go. Actually, Nobody War probably doesn't want Go-Go, because he already has 6 characters. But Jexy will be in Go mode after this fight. Nobody War might be looking for just a quick boss to fight. Just remember, with 12 bosses, you can get to do the skip. As Pokerific says, it's Go-Go mode. You darn right it is. And with Merton on the table, this Senor Scrontium Senior, or what it actually is, Super Behemoth, is not going to last very long. What does everybody in the chat, what do they like their SR abbreviation to be? I personally like Sriracha Behemoth, because that one at least is spicy. Alright, that was another terrible joke. I will stop. And the second phase of Senor Behemoth can be X-zoned. So say it with me. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye. And welcome to Kefka. At 6 characters and 9 espers, that is go mode for Jexvarok. And I'm joined by a co-commentator. What's going on? Chuck's up.
Hey.
How's it going? Hey, hey, hey.
It's going good. How are you?
We were debating what the SR in SR Behemoth stands for. What do you think? Where do you land on that?
Good debate. I always thought it was Senior Behemoth.
Yeah.
But there's no Junior Behemoth, so I guess it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, there is a regular Behemoth, and there is a GT Behemoth, which probably stands for great. So SR probably stands for super, but I like Senor or Sriracha or Scrontium. Those are all much better. Sir Behemoth, Speedrun Behemoth.
those are all really good, yeah.
So yeah, we were doing Shadows Ninja Star flag set to catch you up on what's happening here. This will be the set of options that we are going to be running in the second week of the Coliseum, as Nobody War does not get the doggo skip. So in order to do that, you have to go left immediately as soon as you enter the door and not come back to the right like he did. So that's an Edgar down there. Again, I think he's looking to get 2 more bosses for skip, and then he's going to go buy that Tizen Thief Esper, maybe? Because he's at 8 and 7 at the moment. Fitz just picked up Umaro, so he's at 5 characters, and he will be getting his 9th Esper on the throne. So he just needs to go to Welk in order to find Realm. That's his path forward in Seed.
Okay, so the requirements here look like they're the same as the Ultros League requirements.
Yeah, so the requirements are the same as our standard. The things that are different is that for winning a Coliseum match, you get auto image, which is really nice. You always get Shadow, and he always has throw. And the other interesting thing about this flag set is that YNPC is set to remove, so you can sequence break into other characters as checks. No free progression is on, so that means anything that is not a fight is going to be a high tier item. As you see, Jex going in to the tower with the skip at 101.35, blazing fast time here.
Wow, that is really good.
So you do get a skip at 12 bosses instead of the 9 characters or 12 espers. I think it makes the skip way more accessible. In my opinion,
so that's almost a given, right? That you're going to get 12 bosses.
Yep, so that is Nobody War's 12th boss right there. Because remember I said that Fun Baba counts as 2. So Fitz, talking to the little girl, seeing that it's Edgar, goes, "Yippee, that is my 6th character." And he's going to be at 12 bosses, or is at 12 bosses. Yeah, is at 12 bosses now. So yeah, there are 2 other interesting things about this flag set is that the split XP, there is split XP amongst your party members that are living. So what we've seen is some of our runners have been going with a party of 3 instead of a party of 4. And oh my goodness, it is Magimaster. Thank God we have Berserk.
All right.
Oh my goodness. That could have been real bad. So Magimaster will change his weakness on every turn. But thankfully can be Berserked. That's really his one weakness, which means he can't cast any spells. Which then in turn means he can't change his immunities, right? So
yeah, much easier that way.
I seem to have misclicked somewhere.
Well, unless when he is changing, the only real way to deal with it, in my opinion, is you have to have some kind of offense that cuts through all of those different immunities. So like something like Atma Weapon,
Yep.
Otherwise, the only other way to deal with it is you have to scan, see what he's currently vulnerable to, and then have the right magic type, which is never something you want to be stuck doing against him.
No. Because the thing is, with Worlds Collide, you never know what kind of magic you're going to find, right? It's not like in the vanilla game where you basically have access to almost every single magic, right?
Right.
So, that is a quad 9s there from Fitz. Very nice.
So in this flag set as well, do we have it where your new characters that you find are going to come in at the average level of your other characters?
Yes, they will. So we saw that earlier, as that is go mode for Fitz, with his 6th and his 9th, and that's Nobody War's first dragon down there. He's still looking for his last Esper, so we'll see if he finds it. So Fitz did not get Go-Go, so he is not in Go-Go mode. He's just in Go mode.
Right.
So the other interesting thing about this flag set is that you cannot sell items for any money. So that sort of makes the Tzem Thief off limits. The auction house is already off limits because of the no free progression flag, as Nobody War probably forgot and just found out. Or got reminded of there. So it's going to be hard to raise money unless you go and do some grind fights to get GP. Because bosses don't drop money. It's only those random battles that do. And oh no, did Fitz accidentally fly into the Doomgaze spot? Thankfully, it was Ultros number 1.
Yeah, that could be disastrous.
Thankfully, it's dead right away. He is going to pick up another piece of Magicite he doesn't actually need. But whatever. Looks like he's heading back to the Coliseum here. Maybe he saw something in there earlier that he wants to go get now.
Yeah, maybe that Magicite proves helpful if it has, some kind of calmness protection or something like that on it.
Yeah. Well, we did get Golem in the floating continent, which all 3 of our runners did.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure floating continent was required in this seed, because we got Terra, and I don't think we found any other characters any other way other than Umaro. And Umaro, we didn't see a character in the hidey hole, so I think Terra was gating the seed on the floating continent. And Fitz wants another Ragnarok. So there it is, easy mode. Nobody War yeets the boss out of the way, so you can do that in Zozo with Terra. You can get through to this room here. If you don't have Terra, you actually can get in the room, but there's just no reward on the chair. And oh no, it's a vanilla poltergeist here. Chucks up. This
guy can be a problem sometimes, but it looks like Jex has stop, which makes
wonderful.
Poltergeist no problem.
Yeah, Poltergeist will cast stop, but he could also be stopped. Can stop, will stop, if you will. Sorry, P. Diddy. So Fitz is fighting another dragon here. I think he's not confident about his levels. Remember, though, even though dragons give you levels via XP, they also raise the levels of enemies by 2.5 each time you fight a dragon. So,
yeah,
Nobody
you just
War
have to kind of figure out how much is that going to, how much are those extra levels going to help your character's scale against the additional levels that your enemies are going to get. And I find a lot of times it comes down to the types of abilities and offense that your characters have to determine whether that's worth taking that Opera House Dragon or not towards the end of the run.
Yeah, and it will also help you learn any spells if you really need to learn something. For
that too, you get a big
climb.
chunk of MP from fighting those dragons.
Yeah, so Fitz takes out his dragon here, and remember, he was working with a party of 3 for most of the seed, so he only has one strong character per party. We're used to having at least one party with two stronger characters. So let's see what decision he makes about his party composition. Because remember, the left side has Magimaster, and the right side, as we're seeing now on Jex's screen, has Poltergeist. So this could be a pretty brutal Kefka's Tower here.
Definitely. And it looks like Jex is actually stalled out a little bit in this fight with looks like Poltergeist decided to unstop partway through and kill 2/3 of the party here. And so Jex, with having a low MP on Cyan, had to figure out what to do there in terms of finishing the fight. And since I guess the positive here is if Cyan and Realm are some of his stronger characters and he's not too worried about Terra, he gets all the XP to those two characters instead of having to split between three. But if Terra is one of your stronger characters, then you're not happy about having her dead at the end of the fight there.
Yeah, so let's see. Terra was level 33, so I don't know if she was integral to his party, because we did pick up Terra 4th, obviously, out of our characters. Some chose to stick with Gao and some did not. Gao only had slots and sketch in this particular set of options on this particular seed. So some people did swap in Terra as soon as they got her. Some people stuck with Gao. So we'll see what we do here. One Free Fit's getting the bad news that we've got we've got Magimaster. He is, however, going to use Terra's Morph ability, which doubles the damage of whatever her attacks are while she's morphed. So she has Bolt 3 and she has the Bahamut Esper summon. So that'll probably do in the neighborhood of 20,000 damage, but I don't think that's going to be enough, and I don't know what else he has here, Chuck, to figure that out.
Yeah, this is definitely a scary spot for him.
Meanwhile, Jexy says 1v1 me, Umaro. I could dab with your Yeti. Shadow throwing some fire schemes, though, for quad 9s. Wow. Making easy work of Sasquatch.
Yeah, having Shadow throw go solo, I think, is a pretty safe bet. There aren't a lot of bosses I could think of that you'd run into towards the end that that he would run into a problem with. Sometimes having just a solo party for the final dungeon can be a problem if you run into something like the tentacles. But with throw, you can pretty much kill most things, even the multi-target bosses, pretty quick.
Yeah, so we did find tentacles in Cyan's dream. Nobody War found them very early. The auto image status helped a little bit, but it just delayed the inevitable. When you only have like 100 HP and you get grabbed even once, you're pretty much dead. Fitz is finding out the hard way that Magimaster has very high physical evade. So even though Terra has a Valiant Knife, and Valiant Knife ignores defense, as you were speaking about earlier, it's just very hard to hit him with his evade. So let's see what Fitz decides to do here for this party composition. We'll see if he decides to rearrange some things. We know that Berserk is on the table on some of our Espers somewhere, so we'll see if Fitz collected the Esper that does it. Meanwhile, on Nobody War's screen, he is level 42 with his Blitz user, so he decides that he's going to go get Bum Rush. Probably because he saw that Magimaster fight and went, oh god, I need something to deal with this. And Blitz is... So Cyan has Blitz. So it seems that he's going to throw Cyan on the Magimaster side. Because remember, as I said, Magimaster... he needs things that ignore defense, and that's what Bum Rush is. Alright, so we got tier 1 here, and we're going to be using some Merton strats to start off. So, talk to me a little bit about this first tier here, Chucks.
Well, the main thing on this first tier is you do not want the head to be the thing that dies last, because it's going to counter you with Quake. So, that's always my main concern. The only way that you really don't worry about that is if you have float. You can have your whole party float, and that's not a problem. But otherwise, you can do this, what Dex is doing here. Instant death works on the long arm. That's usually the first thing you take out. And then the next thing you're going to take out is the head. And then last thing you're going to take out is short arm, just because you don't want to deal with any of those counters. You can end up having a party member die if you move on to phase 2 with a dead party member. then they're going to get subbed out for whoever else on the list. So as we're going to see here, as he moves to phase 2, Terra is not going to be with us anymore.
That was super fast.
That was, yeah. Well, Merton is just such a... if you can do Merton strats, I don't think there's really anything else that's going to get you through Final Kafka quicker that I can think of. Because it's not only is it such a powerful spell, it's also a very fast cast time. And depending on what items you have to either prevent or absorb the damage, you can be healing your party with it simultaneously as doing damage. So it's a really, really strong strat.
Yeah, so nobody wore getting use out of the go-go that I called useless that he picked up by mimicking Bum Rush. So we'll see if he's got enough HP in him to take out Magimaster here. We're already on to Tier 2 for Jexy, so can we talk about Tier 2 here for a second? Chuck's up.
Sure. Tier 2, you got 4 enemies there. The one in the middle, the Gears Machinery guy that he mimics a lot of the Magitech abilities. That one can be, as you see here, it can be removed with any kind of instant death spell. Then the next one you want to take out is the Lion guy on the bottom right. He casts a lot of magic.
It's a tiger, darn you. It's a tiger.
Sorry, tiger. I know, I always call these things the wrong name. But yeah, the tiger can be taken out with ice. It's vulnerable to ice spells, so that's what you see going on here. That's the second one you want to take out, just because I think in terms of threat level with the types of magic and abilities that it has, that can really disrupt you. The human guy on the right, he does physical attacks. He has a ability when he dies called 10 hit that just does like a wallop on your party. And then the guy in the very back is kind of doing like support style magic, haste, and different things. You want to take him out last. He does have a counter where he will dispel sometimes twice. He also can counter when he dies with I believe it's quarter on your entire party. So there's always, you want to make sure everyone is topped off before you take him out. And then you kind of pray that it doesn't hit anyone, because moving into phase 3, the first thing that can happen is you can get hit by like a meteor attack. And if you get a quarter followed by a meteor, that can kill people in your party. So you want to kind of be prepared, with having everyone topped off, making sure that you get through that first part of phase 3 without having to spend too much time reviving everyone.
Yeah, so it looks like Jexy is actually putting Go-Go to good use here in in this phase. Basically just healing the party with elixirs. Thank you very much. I need my MP. Now let's go. So Fitz and Nobody War both starting their trek up the middle. Remember, Fitz still has to go back and deal with Magimaster at some point. Nobody War did deal with him with some bum rushes. However, they're both going to run into Poltergeist here after this fight. And that'll be where the real challenge is, so we'll keep our eyes out on that. As Nobody War, as Jexy, looks like he's finishing off Tier 2. Those are the dispels and the quarters that you're talking about of magic. And we're done. We outie. On to Tier 3, let's go.
Yeah, Jex is moving pretty quick through this.
So there's 2 parts of Tier 3. There is the girl in the back, which has 9,999 HP, absorbs all elements, so unfortunately Merton is not going to work in this case. We're going to have to find some physical offense. I believe we have Cyan swinging a Ragnarok, and we've got Shadow with Throw, so that should be fine. And then the other part has 40,000 HP. When he gets under 10,000, we'll start casting things like Meteo and Train on your entire party, which will blind and mute your party. And in Worlds Collide, we actually fixed the evade bug, so blind does work. And then, yeah, he will death counter with up to two insta-death physical specials called Calmness, and that is where our auto-image status will help us out, and our Golem summon.
Yeah, the toughest part of this phase right here, I believe, is just knowing how much health Sleep has left to know when he's going to start using those big magic attacks. Because there's some of your Calmness protection, like if all you have is Phantom, it's going to get wiped off if he uses Meteo. So you really have to know that you can pump out the right amount of damage to push into that columnist attack and time it in a way where it lands right as he's going to die, before he's able to cast something like Meteor on you. But if you have Golem, it's really not something you should be too concerned about. Typically you can just use Golem, try to finish him off. If he responds with anything, heal up, and then just keep doing the damage. But as you see here,
Nice.
was not a problem. Yeah, dodge both of the columnists and on to Final Kefka Phase 4.
If we could dodge a wrench, we could dodge a columnist. There we go. Before we get to Kefka, quick question in the chat. I already typed it out, but I'll reiterate it here. So as far as the overlay goes, and Fitz taking a reset here to spicy chicken. The white numbers are the current totals, and the gold numbers are the goals for the seed. So for Worlds Collide, the goal is to defeat Kefka, which we now see on Jexy's screen. But in order to unlock Kefka, you need to recruit 6 characters and find 9 espers in this particular set of options. All option sets are differently, and 6 characters and 9 espers is kind of the standard that you see. So that's kind of why it is the way it is. It's a nice sweet spot for a good time. Speaking of a good time, it's Final Kefka, and that's a Pearl Rod Toss, maximum damage Pearl spell. Very nice. We're going to have Go-Go mimic that, and then we're going to have Shadow throw a big spear, and we'll see what Cyan does here. So Kefka will use the attack called Fallen 1, usually after his first turn, unless you've done more than 30,000 damage to him, which Jex has done. Then he'll start charging up for this ultimate attack called Goner, under which Kefka will not counterattack. If he does get under 30,000 HP and is not in this charging for my ultimate sort of phase, he will counter with some nasty things like Hyperdrive and Havoc Wing, the 2 most deadly singular, both physical and magical attacks in the game. If he's under 10,000 HP, he may counter with Ultima, but I don't even think we're going to see Goner here. Oh, he just sneaks it in. So now Jex Ferox has to be careful. He's done a lot of damage here. I think Kefka, I wasn't counting, but he might be in that range where we might see an Ultima come out. And Ultima is obviously the ultimate spell in the game, so we'll have to be weary of that. With this Mega Elixir healing up Shadow to a lot of HP, it might not even be a problem, though.
Yeah, I think he has X magic on someone, too, so he does have the potential to do more than 10,000 in one round of attacks. Oh,
and there it is, the crack pow. That is time for Jex Ferox 121.37. Very nicely done.
That was a little sketchy, though, because you're right. The fact that that 9,000 damage was enough to do the kill means that he was in that Ultima counter range. So if that wasn't enough to kill him, and he got him down to, I don't know, under 1,000 HP or something like that, Kefka could have countered with Ultima right there, which may very well wipe your entire party.
Well, unfortunately, Nightbot seems to be falling asleep on the job because I cannot... the commentator command worked, but the runner command does not work. So, just as it's spelled on screen, Jexvrok, go give him a follow, and he's in the booth now. Jex Ferox, congratulations on your first place victory, GG.
GG's.
Very nicely done. So, when you first loaded up the flag set, you said, oh god, maybe I should check out some of these options, including the split XP, including the you can't sell anything for any money, including the YMPC remove and no free progression. So tell us a little bit about your approach to this seed.
Okay. Well, I totally forgot about the no free progression. Absolutely forgot about it, but it worked out. However, when I noticed that shops sell for nothing, I'm just items sell for nothing. I'm just like, ew. Okay, well, there's gonna need to be some mid-game grind for sure to make sure I'm able to get the equipment that I need. But primary thing is first, find fire skeins, find earrings. That way I can get my end going. Because throw is just a absolutely amazing ability to start with.
Yeah, so knowing that it's Shadow with throw, we know that, we could at least get through and clear out some early attacks. It also ended up being that we had Gao in the party, and you went on a little bit of a dried meat hunt there in sort of the 20-minute mark of the seed, and you eventually found it. But after how long do you decide I'm going to stop looking for meat?
I was going to continue to looking for dried meat. Reason being was because my only throw weapon was fire skeins. I wanted to make sure I had non-elemental damage ignoring, or non-elemental defense ignoring damage to take care of crazy things like Magi Master, for instance,
Right.
which it came up.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure I had plenty of it to spread around.
Yeah, for sure. Because the Merton strats that you did get going, the only one of our on-screen runners to do, definitely helped out a lot. But that won't help against Magimaster. And you had a really good KT fight, despite of the nasty bosses in there. The Magimaster on the one side, the Poltergeist in the middle, which gave you a smidge of trouble, but not nearly as much trouble as our other runners here. So talk to us about KT a little bit.
So, Magi Master, I knew I had Berserk on somebody. And it just... Actually, no, because one of the +1/+2 Magic Espers had Berserk, so I knew Gao had it. He had... and consequently, Go-Go had it as well, because, Go-Go is Go-Go. You give him the magic stat and he copies whatever the party has. So, Magi Master wasn't concerned one bit, but I should have, after I got Berserk up, I should have just started casting Ice 3 with Gao, and that would have sped that fight up a little bit, because Ice 3 did 9999 damage.
Yeah, it was
as for
pretty
the
ridiculous.
Spacey Chicken fight, that one, I was
it got a
surprised
little
I
dicey there.
I was surprised I had stop. If it wasn't for stop, I would have been in trouble. Well, possibly in trouble. I wanted to make sure one of the extra party members that I picked up got extra levels. It just happened. I wanted it to be Terra. Instead, I got Realm.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about your party composition thoughts. You actually had 3 characters for a long time in this seed before you got Terra on the floating continent. Did you ever think of swapping anybody in for Gao, or at that point was your Gao beefy enough where you're like, it doesn't matter who my 4th character is, I'm going to stick with the 3 that I've got, especially with Split XP?
Okay, well, I decided to make do with what I got because of Split EXP. And Gao, at that point, had 80-some magic power when I went into KT. There was no way I was getting rid of it.
No, I didn't realize it was that high. I figured, it doesn't matter who's casting Merton. Merton hurts no matter who casts it, right? But yeah, I didn't realize that we had buffed Gao up to be that crazy.
Same with Shadow. Shadow was rocking 80 magic power as well.
Wow, very nice.
And then, Cyan was doing, swinging a Ragnarok.
Yep.
Because, can't go wrong with that.
No, of course not.
And on top of it, I didn't want a 4th party member because I didn't have a 4th piece of Merton protection, let alone to split EXP.
Right.
So having a 4th... Sense. The only good thing about having a 4th party member is that I would have been dragging somebody around in the dirt while they were cuddling their Moogle plushie.
Yep. That was Fitz dragging around the corpse of Gao for a while.
So, yeah, with the split EXP, I knew it was going to just be a 3-character run for majority of the seed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when I came into KT, I should have just done 2 party members up the middle, but honestly, it worked out better doing the 3 because Spicy Chicken was gonna do what he was gonna do and be mean.
Yeah, and even though you were able to stop him, he restarted himself, and then it killed 2/3 of your party,
no.
and Cyan was low. You
Yeah.
had to figure out how to get people back up and make that decision between Terra and...
My timing was a little off on recasting stop for the second round.
Yeah,
So
it can get pretty brutal for sure.
Yep. And getting lucky with the Yeti being on the right hand side, it's just like, oh well, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, we were talking about that. There wasn't a lot of bosses I could have thought of that you would have run into at that time with Shadow and Throw that would have been, too difficult
Goddess
for you.
could have been a problem.
Who is that?
Goddess might have been a problem, but he was also rocking the Thunder Shield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's... Goddess is always a problem no matter what. Although Throw is one of the weaknesses of Goddess. Goddess just is very difficult.
Yep. So, I mean, like, having Throw plus the fire schemes, Goddess can get hit by fire damage. We're good.
Yep. So, I think the
Throw
only...
kind of bypasses that Goddess charm.
The love token.
Right? Love token, yes.
Yep. So, 121.37 was a scorching run. Very nice. I think the only problem you had was the Madam Outsider fight in the on the minecart.
Oh, yeah. If it wasn't for that, I would have had the sub 120.
Because then you had to... The last time you had saved was before you defeated the second Magitech boss, right? So you had to do that fight over again, and yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise,
were made.
Listen, that's the one hiccup you had in the seed. It was a really, really well played seed. So, congratulations on first place in this particular race. Are there any flag sets in the Coliseum that you're looking forward to now that you know that this is Shadow's Ninja Star? Do you like this flag set, or is there one that you've been practicing that you really like and really want to see in an upcoming week?
Actually, this I really like this flag set. It's a lot of fun. It gets you thinking because you have to play conservative with your money. You only get $50,000, even though or 50,000 gold. The shops are a little bit cheaper, but you do have to think outside the box. And there's no way nobody's going to the Coliseum to not get auto image. That's too good.
Well, Nobody War is in a bit of a situation here. He's got a zombie Cyan, and Terra is the only one left alive. Yikes. So let's hope he makes it out of this one here. But yeah, sorry, continue what you're saying about, you got to think about things. Coliseum with auto image is really powerful.
That it is. I also wanted to jump on the, what is it? The Madam Outsider fight. My reasoning for trying to take that fight on was because I wanted the money, and EX would have been a good fight for it. I was not expecting everything to death counter me.
No, that was auto image works great against physical attacks, but getting stuff thrown at you, it can't help you. One free fit skating by that poltergeist fight with 1 HP in a dream. That was actually insane. Anyway. But yeah, so there's this flag set. Are there any other ones in particular that catch your eye?
Like Terra's flag set is fun, but it's it makes interesting routing choices because of that free Illumina.
Yeah.
I have got sub 120 doing the Elite River and Tritok check. Plus doing the Coliseum for the 10 free spells.
Yeah.
Because, if you do that sequence of events, and, the 10 free spells dumps, Osmos and a tier 3 spell on top of you, you're pretty much good for the rest of the run, especially with the global stat adjustment of plus 10 magic.
Yeah, for sure.
So that one makes things really, really simple. I do like Cyan's flag set because permadeath is in there.
Yeah, that's always an interesting one. And makes you definitely play way more conservatively.
I wouldn't mind seeing that one.
Yeah. For me, permadeath just means get
yeah.
very, very over
And
leveled, so
whenever
you
you
don't have
see
to
an
worry
empty-
about it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, a fun little thing with the whenever you open up an empty chest, because you're gonna see a lot of them. You're like, oh, that was a phoenix down. Oh,
Yep.
there goes another one.
I don't know if that fix is implemented in
with
the current build.
Permadeath,
But-
it removes phoenix down. Is it implemented? I think I could have sworn it was.
Well, I'll have to play a few cyan seeds, and if I find one, then that means it's not. But if I don't, then, I wasn't sure. You may be right that it might not be the case. So you got to be definitely very careful, very conservative with your plays, for sure. So.
Yep, and let me see. Yeah, those are pretty much Shadows and Scions are probably my two favorite flag sets out of this because of the challenges they provide and strange things like dealing with strange flag sets and something that can be a little over the top is like one of my strong suits, making those crazy adjustments to roll through the seed.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you guys have been watching this,
other...
but I was just going to say, I don't know if you've been watching, but Nobody War is having an epic battle with
yeah.
Kefka right now.
It's pretty gnarly.
I've just been watching it, just like, oh my god, how is he still alive? This is just brutal. But yeah, he's managing somehow to keep his party up. It's wild. As far as Jex, grats on the race, man. You did great. You're always a fun racer to watch. I like all the stuff that you do for the community with all your crazy seeds and different things that you're coming up with all the time. It's always a lot of fun with you around. So yeah, grats, and thanks for making it fun for everyone.
Just a final thought. Anybody who is new to Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide or is interested in learning this, come join us in our Discord. We have a wonderful community. We're all willing to help you learn the ropes, learn the routing, the different strategies, help you get set up, all that fun stuff. Also give our Restream team and our racers a follow, and I will see you all around. GG's, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shex, for volunteering to be on Restream. Can't have the races without our racer volunteers, so appreciate you. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Oh, no, Nobody War. All right, see you, Jex. Nobody War. Finally.
Oof, yeah.
Loses that battle. Ugh.
Yeah, he was trying to hang on for dear life there. That is so I certainly wouldn't want to do that again. So that is Nobody War taking a forfeit there. I don't
blame him.
And we are going to go to One Free Fits, who, remember how I talked about Magimaster's super duper high evade and all that? Well, as a way around that, One Free Fits bought himself a sniper sight, and sniper sight guarantees that your physical attack will hit. So that is certainly one way to get around that evade problem that Magimaster has. So we'll see if this helps him get through here. Oh, he's just going to throw... okay, so he put the sniper sight on Yeti, and Yeti is just booming him with the body slams. So body slam will ignore defense, and Shadow's just throwing stuff at Magimaster for the other part.
Yeah,
so
this is one of those situations where when you find a wall like Magimaster in the middle of your run, you really can't think about saving anything for Final Kefka. You just have to say, I need to get past this part, whatever it's going to take, I'm going to use whatever it is, and then I'll deal with the rest of the run when I get to it.
Yep, you can't take that scimitar with you, just chuck it now. Off with his head.
Yep.
There it is, very nicely done. So One Free Fits gets past the roadblocks that were Poltergeist and Magimaster, and it looks like he is going to be heading up finally to step on the switches for Kefka's tower. So we talked about how fast Jexy was flying through Final Kefka. Nobody got through tier 1 pretty well, and then tier 2 just was brutal, losing Cyan to Zombie, and I don't know if he had a Revivify, so that's probably why Cyan got left back on tier 2, and then tier 3 was what tier 3 does what tier 3 does, right? Gave him the business. So yeah.
But yeah, going back to what Jex was saying about the community and the Worlds Collide randomizer and everything, one thing I found with Worlds Collide when I first started playing it several months ago was that it's a randomizer that you're watching these races and you're watching how fast these guys are flying through the menus and deciding what to do in different abilities and compositions and shops and all this stuff, and it might look intimidating for someone who may be new to this to the game or new to the randomizer as a whole. But the reality is it's actually a very accessible version of Final Fantasy VI, and not everyone that plays it is going to decide to speed run and race like this, right? Like it actually is a randomizer that can be a lot of fun, just played kind of casually. It allows you to play through a good chunk of the game, minus a lot of the cutscenes and talking and dialogue and stuff, which is great. But if you play the game a lot and you want to re-experience the game on a certain level without having to play through what a lot of times is a 12 to 15-hour playthrough or whatever it is, playing through the vanilla version of the game. This is a pretty accessible way to kind of have fun and to get a completely unique experience every time you play. And it's a with all the resources and everything that are out there, within I'd say a couple days of just kind of tooling around with Worlds Collide, you do start to get a pretty good idea of how it flows and where you need to go. You start kind of learning what all the different checks are and who unlocks what and things like that. So, for anyone out there who may be looking at this and interested, but maybe a little intimidated, just from my experience, it's really it's a really great randomizer in the fact that it's accessible for new players, but also offers a lot of challenge and a lot of variety for the guys like that you're watching race tonight who have done hundreds of seeds. So if you're interested at all, as we said, check out the wiki, join the Discord, and there's going to be people who are willing to help get you started.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about playing this game is that not only is it different every time you load it up, but when you're doing things like watching races or you're participating in like a group sort of race setting, is that there's no one way usually to crack a seed. Sometimes you do get a very linear seed where there's one path. This seed was somewhat linear in that you had to go get Terra at the floating factory in order to finish the floating continent to finish the game, right? But at the same time, we also didn't see what was down in the Edgar checks, so Edgar could have had a character down there that we could have done some sequence breaking with YNPC remove, right? Worlds Collide is also extremely customizable. Most of the stuff that you see in the game, there's knobs and tunes that you could tweak it at your way. So definitely very customizable, and the not having to get key items definitely also helps with that lack of linearity as we spoke about earlier. Fitz breezing through tier 1 there had a little bit of trouble with the long arm. I think he ate like 2 breaks or a break and a doom before he finally gave in, but very nicely done on Fitz's screen for tier 1. So let's talk a little bit more about the Coliseum while we're watching Fitz clear out the second tier here. Let's talk about the schedule. So we're currently in the qualifying portion of the event. It is a just group race similar to this one, and that will determine placement on. Oh no, does he not have a way to get out of Imp? Maybe he's learned the Imp spell somewhere. Let's hope so. Because that would be brutal. I don't know if Mantra clears Imp or not. Because Blitz, Mantra is one of the blitzes that will heal your party for the amount of HP that your Blitz user has divided evenly amongst your party members, but it also clears some status ailments. What I would do here, if I don't have Imp, you could actually kill Terra and bring her back. Or you could use Dispel. I think that might work. I think Dispel only works on status effects, whereas Imp, I think, is different. I don't know. We'll go to the wiki.
Yes, or we'll just see what Fitz figures out.
Yep. So, yeah, so for the Coliseum, this week we're doing what's called the Grand Melee. It's basically like the qualifier for it. The top 32 players will go on to the preliminary round, which starts on December 4th next week, and it will be this flag set here, the Shadow Ninja Star. So this is not this individual seed, but this set of options will be the one that you'll be able to see our runners do starting next week. And it looks like Fitz has found a way around his Imp with a Valiant Knife. Very cool. So next week is the preliminary round, and it's a double elimination tournament for the top 32 players. So obviously 16 players will win and 16 players will lose after that first week. And the second week, starting on December 11th through the 18th, is when the lower half of the Coliseum entrance, everybody that didn't make it past the first 32, will start on Chupan's Pit, which is basically the winner-take-all tournament on the bottom half there. So there's a lot of 1v1 racing that you'll see upcoming here. We do have a weekly slot at 8 p.m. on one of the SpeedGaming channels, so we will probably be broadcasting at least one or more Coliseum races in the near future here.
Yeah, it's from what I've seen of it so far, it looks like a really fun flag set. I mean, or I guess I wouldn't call it a flag set, right? Because you're playing multiple flag sets depending on the starting character, right?
Yeah, so in this flag set, you always get Shadow, and he has his vanilla abilities. So you start with the character of that flag set, and they get their vanilla ability.
Right, and so all the other flags are going to be pretty much the same then, right? Like the no free progression, the things selling for 0 in the shops.
No, that's just Shadow.
Only Shadow.
That's only for
okay.
Shadow.
Okay,
yep.
so you're really dealing with, potentially 12 different flag sets, or
yes.
however many characters there are.
Yeah, so it's based on the standard set of options of 6 characters, 9 espers, a skip at 12 bosses. There is a reward for beating the Coliseum or beating a battle in the Coliseum, and it's kind of tailored towards the character. So, for instance, for Terra, her flag set gives you maximum morph duration, and Terra has morph naturally, so that helps. And also, you get to learn 10 spells, right? So, for Gao's flag set, you learn 25 rages because he starts with rage, and you get plus 20 speed. So it's a lot of like intricate things. And then there's a global stat adjustment at the beginning of the seed. So in this seed with Shadow, it's plus 5 speed and plus 5 strength. So the different users have different things. Like Stragos has plus 10 magic power, etc., etc.
And is it just those 8 characters that are utilized then? Gao, Locke, Edgar.
No, it's all so there's 14 different flag sets, one for each character in the game.
Okay, so like you could start with Gogo, and Gogo has their own flag set.
Yeah, so for instance, let's do Gogo's flag set. Gogo's flag set, if you win a battle in the Coliseum, you get auto reflect, which is pretty awesome. So for commands, you could have any commands, so even Possess and Magitech and Shock are available.
I see. So they all so depending on who the starting person is or whose flag set it is, it's all kind of centered around like the theme of that character and that character's abilities and strengths, just amplified in a way that makes it viable to use them as your main character.
Yeah. So interestingly, like Umaros, if you win a Coliseum fight, you get auto berserk, which sounds kind of awful. But you also get plus 30 strength, right? So if you have somebody that you're like, well, this person is going to be swinging a sword all game, I might as well go to the Coliseum and win a battle and hope I find either ribbons or peace rings to remove berserk.
Auto berserk on everyone.
On everybody. But if you have a ribbon, that nullifies the berserk, right? So there are ways around it. You just have to get clever.
Right.
And as part of the flag set, there's also like little tweaks to different individual flags that may or may not change. So for this one, we had the whole, you can't sell anything in shops basically, and split XP. So for instance, we've got like for Terra's one, it is the magic points is ×7 instead of ×5. Multi-summon is on, and the Espers cost a lot less to summon. Right, so that makes sense because it's mostly Terra stuff.
Right. Well, it sounds like it makes it very difficult to practice for the Coliseum because you're going to have to be, practicing 13 different variations of.
Yep.
Characters.
So it's certainly good to be familiar with what all of the individual. It's really going to be a skill set challenge, right? Of how well do you know these different flags? And the other thing that makes it interesting, and obviously we haven't seen it yet, but since the Coliseum is all 1v1 races, it allows for a much larger emphasis on metagame. Like, what is my opponent doing right now? What do I think the other runner is doing? Because you're not racing against a group of people, you're racing against one person. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you're like, well, I know how this one person runs, they usually tend to just, do grind fights and then do this other thing, right? If you could say, well, let me skip out on grind fights so I can try and get an early edge by getting more progression, right? So you could really focus on going up against your opponent instead of what does the flag have to offer for me and how do I beat it the fastest. So that hasn't yet come into shape, but it certainly will starting next round. All right, so here we see Kefka in his Goner charge, so that's the time to chuck all of our damage, which includes our shields. And all of our highest damaging stuff. So Terra is in rough shape. She's imped, muted, and and blind.
I'm surprised he's not using a Mega Elixir here to try to survive or maybe he's waiting on it.
Ooh.
Oh, because this is going to kill everyone but Cyan.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he threw that shield. Had he thrown the shield before the Goner went off, it would have counted, but now that shield is gone forever.
Right. And Terra comes back as an imp, even though she was dead.
Oh, does she? Interesting. I thought that killing somebody and reviving them would not make them an imp anymore. Yikes, that's awful.
Yeah, I guess only if you use a tent to revive them, because then it brings remove status effects.
Yep. So we were commenting in the race room here that.
Oh my goodness.
Whew. All right, so that's 2 down. Let's go, Fitz. You got this.
Come on, Fitz.
He has Valiant Knife on Terra, and Terra has very low HP. So maybe one swing from the Valiant Knife does it. The problem is, if his HP is too low, he might get an ultimate counter and wipe here. But now that he's charging up for Goner.
Goner charge probably has plenty of time to do what he needs to do.
Oh, and it's a limit break! Oh no, that whiff.
Wasn't
oh my god, I thought the whiff was going to do it for him. Holy cow, Fitz, you're making me nervous. 1:53:19 is his official race time. Get your GGs in chat for 1 free Fitz.
Yeah, GG Fitz.
So he also says wanted to forfeit, but brute forced my way through Spicy Chicken and Magimaster. So excellent job on the perseverance there. So he said he's going to pass on a post-race interview.
All good. Yeah, Fitz was in my my Potion B group for Ultros League this season, and he did really well. I mean, we were neck and neck a lot of the weeks. Like I think we had one where I beat him by like 7 seconds or something like that, and we had Squack McQuack was at the top of our division, just completely destroying everyone. I don't think he lost a single week. But Fitz was like right there doing really well, and so he's a really good racer, and he definitely is one that never quits. So good on him for that.
Yeah, so Imp is a permanent spell, and it cures with a green cherry, remedy, sleeping bag, or tent. So unfortunately, Fitz did not have either one of those two. Interesting. So anyway, but yeah, so Fitz is a great racer. He is also going to be doing a charity stream for the Final Fantasy marathon. He's going to be running on December 11th at 4 a.m. Eastern. So set your alarm clocks for Fitz's run. I certainly am. My birthday is the next day, so that'll be an early wake-up call birthday present.
That's 1 a.m. for me. So unless I'm up really late the night before, I don't know if I'm going to be there for the beginning of that.
It's a Sunday, so get your Saturday night on.
Yeah, maybe I will. We'll see.
Yeah, so excellent perseverance by One Free Fitz. Just showing off his knowledge of the game, going out of Kefka's Tower to go pick up a sniper sight relic so that he could actually hit Magimaster, right? So, and getting through the Spicy Chicken spot is always rough when you don't necessarily have the tools that you need in order to do the job.
For sure.
So definitely. I think that's going to mostly wrap us up here. Chuck's up. You got any last thoughts before we send everybody out of here?
Just thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for the support. Thank you, Schwantz, for doing the commentary and everything you do for the community. Thanks for having me and inviting me to do commentary. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully I can do it a little more. I'm not participating in this Coliseum thing. I'm taking a little break until the next Ultros League starts up. To really start getting back into the swing of playing the game again. So, for the time being, I'm happy to help out, do commentary or restream or wherever you guys need me, and looking forward to seeing how this whole Coliseum thing goes. It's been a lot of fun, so can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. It was good to talk to you after a while. Haven't seen you in a bit. Ultros League certainly allows us to practice and grind, but doing stuff like the Coliseum I think is a good refresher on our standard coat of paint that we've been grinding out for 8 weeks. Now we have, something a little bit different to look at, and we have to, practice and balance it as always, like Thanos said.
For sure.
But yeah, so this was a really fun race showing off the intricacies of this upcoming week's flag set. That is the Shadows Ninja Star. So I want to thank you as well for stepping in to do commentary and helping me at least for a little bit to relieve my voice, because it was starting to go there for a little bit.
Yep, my pleasure.
Yeah, and also want to thank the racers for volunteering. Can't have a restream without them. They are the reason why we are here, right? So go give them a follow. Unfortunately, Nightbot is asleep on the job. That is Jexvarok, Nobody War, and One Free Fitz. That's their Twitch names, just as they're spelt on screen. So that should be pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, can't copy and paste it from from the image on the screen. So go give them a follow. I've been TheSchwantz27, and we will be back next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. on one of the SpeedGaming channels. And until then, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody, and bye.
Thank you, guys.